Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is Eisenherz with the first part in a mini-series on how I prepare for my first CDH tournament. In the following weeks I will showcase how I chose and brew my deck for this tournament, how I playtest cards, how I learn to pilot this deck, where I get input and necessary help, and of course how I track my games in order to become a better pilot. And finally I will also log the tournament so we can have a full picture of my first steps into tournament CDH. So for some context, I signed up for the Jeweled Lotus Lattenkamp tournament in Hamburg, Germany, which is an EDH tournament that is not specifically targeted at CDH players, but I know for a fact that a lot of CDH players from Germany will be present. The tournament is free to play, completely proxy friendly, consists of 5 Swiss rounds with an 80-minute time limit and 1 extra round, and then there will be a top 4 table without a time limit. So there won't be a top 16 cap. So with that out of the way, let's start at the beginning, choosing a commander and brewing a list. As you know, I play 4 different decks: Urza Power Scepter, Rograk Tevesh Turbo Storm, Thalia Gitrog Hate Bear stacks, and Omnath Rainbow Evolution. I thought about playing one of these decks, but ultimately decided against that because of the following reasons. Urza is a control deck that struggles to close out the game within 80 minutes, which is the time limit for Swiss rounds. On top of that, playing control or stacks is highly suboptimal in Swiss rounds, because in those rounds there tend to be a lot more semi-competitive or even casual players that misplay and sometimes even kingmake unintentionally. I've talked about this in a previous video, but that's definitely an issue I don't want to have in this tournament. These issues also make Thalia Gitrog unplayable in a tournament setting, so that deck is also ruled out. That leaves me with 2 decks, Rograk Tevesh Turbo Storm and Omnath Rainbow Evolution. Rograk Tevesh is quickly ruled out as well, because it lacks the necessary mid-range value engines for a tournament. Having almost no interaction, no Rhystic Study, no Mystic Remora, and no super compact win con makes this deck too fragile in a tournament setting. Alright, then Omnath is a good option, right? Well, realistically, Omnath is my best deck for a tournament, but it lacks a few things I would want to have when playing in a tournament setting. First, unconditional tutors. These give your deck the necessary consistency to follow a reliable game plan. Second, more compact win cons. In Omnath, I play Breach and Dockside plus Emil, but as compact and high quality these combos might be, they aren't even close to Thassa's Oracle plus Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. This is a fact. And although I hate to play Oracle as a win con, I won't get around it if I want to succeed in this tournament. Third, an impactful value engine in the command zone. Omnath has 4 pips and gives you a mana boost with every fetch land, while also being an outlet for different lines. That's cool, but it's not the same consistent value that Tymna, Thrasios or Kraum can provide. So bottom line, the decks I play are solid for a more casually competitive environment. But in a tournament setting I will have to play the best commanders, best strategies and best cards available. So which decks provide all of that? Well, there are a few, and you can check how successful they are on this great new website, EDH Top 16 by Eminence Gaming. This website tracks tournament results and deck lists so that you can make a decision on a deck based on solid data. If you check the most successful commanders, you will see that the top 4 commanders are Tymna Kraum, Najeela, Thrasios Bruce and Rograk Silas. This is probably not a surprise for anyone, as those decks have proven themselves to be the strongest even in casually competitive environments. Well, for this tournament I opted to brew and play Tymna Kraum Blue Farm, because it is the most successful deck overall, has 2 very good card draw engines in the command zone, has incredible card quality with unconditional tutors, very compact win cons, lots of free and cheap interaction, as well as tons of card draw engines in the 99. I decided against Thrasios Bruce, although it's the most similar to my Omnath deck, because one of the commanders does basically nothing and the deck lacks unconditional tutors. And the deck can also not play Thassa's Oracle plus Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. Rograk Silas is probably the fastest turbo deck, but lacks the necessary mid-range value I want in my deck. And Najeela, well, she would definitely be my second choice after Blue Farm. So now that I have chosen a commander pairing, let's have a look at how I brewed my list. For this step I also used EDH Top 16 and Moxfield. I basically copied all the top 10 deck lists into a new Moxfield page, so that I could figure out what the core is for a blue farm list. I consider cards to be the core if they see play in about 8 out of those 10 decks, so 80%. This gave me around 85 cards. Next, I looked at cards that saw play in at least 50% of the decks, which gave me an additional 10 or so cards. So already 90 to 95% of the deck were set. Now, the last 5 to 10 slots were basically my own twist. I needed some cheap interaction against Rograk Silas, some mass removal against Najeela and Winota, as well as some value creatures to make Tymna more efficient. As I main Urza, and am fairly familiar with playing more grindy and control-y, I opted to shift my deck into that direction. Turbo is something I only play once in a while, so I wanted more ways to grind value over multiple turns and outpace my opponents. I choose to slot Lavinia against Turbo Norse and Breach, Fire Covenant and Dam against Najeela and Winota, because these can be used as single targeted and as mass removal, giving me more options. And finally, I added Containment Priest against Evolution Strategies and Winota. I'm also currently testing Fairy Mastermind, which has not been played in tournaments yet, as well as Serra Ascendant, Archivist of Ogma, Ledger Shredder and Grim Hireling, all of which are value creatures for Tymna triggers. Other cards I'm strongly considering are Imperial Seal, which is of course an unconditional tutor, but also only top decks the card at sorcery speed, Gitaxian Probe, which can be great to combo off more safely, and March of Swirling Mists as an alternative mass removal spell. I choose not to play any wheels except for Wheel of Fortune, because I don't really want my opponents to refuel with Windfall, and Time Twister also feels weird with Breach as the main game plan. And that's basically how I put together my current list. Of course, I need to grind games like crazy to see which cards perform well for me and which don't. And also, I'm just learning to pilot this deck, so take my brewing options here with a grain of salt. Finally, it's important to add that I know that the conversion rate of blue farm lists that enter tournaments and blue farm lists that make the top 16 isn't optimal. But I'm pretty sure that playing this list still increases my chances of succeeding in this tournament immensely. Anyway, if you want to see my current list, make sure to check the link in the description box. Next week I will show you guys where I get input on piloting, brewing options and how I try to improve my skills playing this deck. And that's it for the first part of this mini-series. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, share the video with your friends, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content in the future. This is Eisenherz and auf Wiedersehen.